Wings to Fly is a children's book about gaining confidence and working to succeed, told from the perspective of a young girl who loves to play basketball. She is often left out by her teammates until she meets her guardian angel who teaches her that success takes perseverance. Wings to Fly is a great read for all children. I would highly recommend this book. If you would like to make a purchase, please click on the link in my description box below.
We're used, we're brutalized. The police in our community occupy our area, our community, as a foreign troop occupies territory. And the police are there not to, in our community, not to promote our welfare or for our security and our safety, but they're there to contain us, to brutalize us and murder us.
The summer of 1960, we moved into this house. With that, I saw the college, you know, and I said, whoa, I gotta go in and check things out. And one day I walked out of the school auditorium and I noticed there was a street corner rally going on across the street, 2 blocks down. A guy named Donald Warden. The Afro-American Association's come here today to tell it like it is. We are African-American people. We are people who have a descendancy of Africa, of great culture and great civilizations. I said, oh, I should step by this guy. That's what this rally is about. So I listened, you know.
As the climate of this country was changing in the 1960s, the civil rights movement began to raise questions in the minds of the community and push the envelope towards changing the evolving conditions in Oakland.
I was born and raised in the Bay Area. When the Empire of Japan and the Empire of the United States collided in the Pacific in 1941, the Japanese population on the West Coast were interned in concentration camps throughout the country. We were no different than the others. My family was relocated to Topaz, Utah, to a concentration camp in the middle of the scenic Utah desert. After spending about 3.5 to 4 years in Topaz, I was brought back to the Bay Area to live with my father's family in West Oakland. Even prior to World War II, there was a significant African-American population in West Oakland as a result of the railroads. And the African-American Brotherhood of Sleeping Car Porters was very strong in Oakland. And one has to recall that in 1945, residential segregation was still the law of the land. There was a great deal of similarity between the concentration camp experience and the racial segregation. So the West Oakland ghetto was a self-contained community. 7th Street in West Oakland was like whatever the main drag in Harlem is. Growing up in West Oakland was one of the most significant experiences for me because I was immersed in African-American culture.
Well, you have to put it in context of what the segregation meant psychologically on the African-American population. It was degrading. You had to be socialized to how to deal with certain frustrations because you would be killed, literally killed.
Let's say it's a grandmother who was raised with parents who were direct descendants of slaves, who were taught, like my great-grandmother, don't speak up to white people. You'll lose your life. She wasn't a fearful woman. She just wanted to keep her life and keep her children's lives.
At that time, the bus boycott had started in Montgomery already with Rosa Parks and stuff. And we would watch this stuff on TV. We would watch the whole civil rights struggle. And my mother used to get so upset. She used to like start cussing and throwing stuff at the TV, and she would say, boy, don't you ever let nobody treat you like that, you know, because people were getting hosed down for trying to vote.
There was a visible absence of any black police officers, for instance. I knew only of 2, but there were no black police officers in any numbers on the Oakland Police Department. So racism was pretty pronounced. It was a day-to-day kind of reality for young guys hanging on the corner as I did.
You could not verbalize a negative towards a white person or something that's the white institution in front of white people, because they had all the authority, they had the laws, they had the guns, they had the economic power.
I grew up in Washington, D.C., where the police routinely beat African American men and women for nothing. So I grew up understanding how important it was for somebody to say, stop.
These 2 policemen were dragging this teenager, and they started beating him and kicking him and poking him, I mean, really shoving their sticks into, you know, into his stomach. And it was like everything that had gone on down south was now in your face.
From the early slave revolts forward, there hadn't been an organized movement, and certainly not of young people, to say no to police brutality and the colonization of the communities. And I'm using colonization intentionally. That's not rhetoric.
The police had all the authority. But nonetheless, I mean, it took people that had courage, strength, will. They were committed to what they were doing. And it was not only African Americans. There were a lot of whites coming in from the East Coast and up north, and some in the South that believed that there ought to be a change.
This is what we want, an end to police brutality. This is what we want.
Merritt College is important to the struggle of the black community because we had the first black studies program in the country. Then Cornell, then New York UNO, but the first black studies program was at Merritt College, inspired, promoted, and developed by the Black Panther Party.
If you look at the history of those that were leaders, they're educated in what they were thinking. It was a new way of thinking, new way of doing things. The Panthers were about the black community and trying to upgrade them, trying to provide an opportunity for the people living in the flatlands to be proud, to exercise their rights. So it was challenging, but it was exciting at the same time.
We met over here, sometimes 3 times a week. And we divided up categories, and we, in effect, categorized 4 different course concepts, 4 different course syllable concepts. Because we had 2 courses in Black American Studies, 2 courses in African Studies. And this is what we were after, because we was organizing the campus for this, and I'm trying to show Dean Olson, we got all these people in here who are interested in this course. Well, I don't know if we can get it this year, and we says no. Well, Huey walks in, and as he walks in, I never forget this, he was coming around the back, and Dean Olson says, now, Newton, you're not a student here anymore. And Huey says, well, for that matter, Dean Olson, you're not a student here either. Because I'm here to support Bobby Seale. This is a community college. I live in the community. I live right down the streets in the community. So I'm here to support him for the need for Black American history.
When the Black Studies courses got started, then people from all over the community, African Americans from all over the community, came and took these courses because it was access to information, it was access to history that they'd not learned. And it was during the heat of the Civil Rights era. That's where I experienced the Civil Rights era, was on this campus.
That particular community college was the nexus. It was the impetus for our Black Panther Party, and also it launched ethnic studies programs, the seeds of that, the beginning of the African American curriculum that now exists in every college, not just here in California, but the breadth of America, has its birth at Merritt College with Huey Newton and Bobby Seale, who were the precursors to African American Studies programs. So that particular college gave expression to primarily African Americans or blacks, if you will.
Instructors began to teach things that we know were not true. The slave master being a benevolent keeper of ignorant slaves and treated them well and all of that. Well, we would get up in class and tell them that's crap. That's a lot of crap. If that's the case, why weren't the people from white society slaves? Sure, they didn't enjoy working.
These students hadn't heard these things before. Their idea was, oh, we black people are just walking around, handkerchiefs on our head, looking for the white man to tell us where to go. But I changed every bit of that. And I said, where that exists, it's because we have not been allowed to be women and men in full control.
Merritt College at that time was also known as the Little Harvard of the East Bay. Merritt College transferred more students to the University of California than any other community college in Northern California. One had to do with proximity. Another reason was the quality of its faculty.
Administration at the college began to feel the pressure that they had to do something because black students were beginning to rise up and demand it.
The Panthers didn't go and ask those who were in charge of schools, is it okay if Miss Arrington comes up here and teaches? No, We want Cecilia Arrington up here. Hire her.
When the students demand, hey, give us a black president now, it can't be done. And if they come to the academic senate and demand things or even close the door and put pressure on us, there were even some bullets distributed, not with guns, mind you, but telephone wires were pulled out of the wall. And so, yes, the faculty was under pressure. And they wouldn't have gotten very far if they had asked very nicely to be part of things. Because I knew the leadership well enough that I, in my bones, felt that this was pressure, it was not direct confrontation. And we did get a black president, the first black president of any Northern Community College.
Norvell Smith, the president, highly intelligent, very capable. And the Black Panther Party said, by promoting black studies, you will have an even finer institution.
Dr. Norvell Smith gave me the opportunity to come home and share what I had picked up there at the university as a result of my formal education, and I hope I've done well. Dr. Smith passed away about 3 or 4 years ago, an outstanding educator.
When we began to see people come in to Merritt from who had been to Vietnam, now they're coming over and telling us their stories firsthand, from down south, telling us firsthand what's really going on in Vietnam, what's really going on in Europe, what's really going on around the world. And so, and now we're not getting the news from the newspaper or from the TV, which was whitewashed, if you will.
When you're in the military, you hear a lot of stuff and you find out a lot of stuff civilians don't know about. So I was a couple of years ahead of the American public regarding what was really going on in Vietnam. I began talking with buddies that were coming back, and they were telling me stories I couldn't quite believe. They were talking about Zippo-ing villages, going into villages and burning the whole damn place and wiping out women and children. And this was years before My Lai. And I said, wait a minute, I can't be a party to that.
Can't stop now. Can't stop now.
In the Civil War, 186,000 black men fought in the military service, and we were promised freedom, and we didn't get it. In World War II, 850,000 black men fought, and we were promised freedom, and we didn't get it. In the Korean conflict, the so-called police action, a war, we fought there, and we didn't get it. Now here we go with the damn Vietnam War, and we still ain't getting nothing but racist police brutality, etc. We are against oppression.
We took up the issue of black men being drafted into the war in Vietnam, so we should resist the draft. This would be a protest to resist the draft. Every seat was taken, and it may have been 100 or more or so people standing in the aisles. And I was the master of ceremonies for the whole 2.5, 3-hour program. I picked up the poem from Round Stone. The very first lines of the poem said, "Uncle Sammy called me full of Lucifer." Uncle Sammy called me full of Lucifer. Well, I don't give a good eagle-eyed McFleagle triple whammy damn for I, Phyllis Foster, will not serve. Uncle Sammy, don't shuck and jive me. I'm hip to popcorn jazz changes you blow. You know damn well what I mean. You school my naive heart to sing red, white, and blue stars and striped songs and to pledge eternal allegiance to all things blue, true, blue-eyed, blonde, blonde-haired, white chalk, white skin with USA tattooed all over. When my soul trusted Uncle Sammy, loved Uncle Sammy. I died in dreams playing war for you, Uncle Sammy. For you, Uncle Sammy. You jam your emasculate manhood symbol puffed with gonorrhea. Gonorrhea of corrupt, unreality myths into my ungreased nigger ghetto black ass of my Jewish, Catholic, Hindu, Islamic Sioux. What? Sure, free public health penicillin cured me. But Uncle Sammy, if you want to stay a freak show strongman God, fuck your motherfucking self. I will not serve. The crowd went wild. This crowd, I mean, they loved that poem. When I recited that poem, yes, oh my God, Mama, this blew Huey's mind.
After the assassination of Malcolm X, Huey Newton and Bobby Seale came together to form an action-based group focused on social change called the Black Panther Party.
I had a one-man riot up the street here. I says, I'm gonna find my friend Huey. I told Huey he had to help me get a new organization going because they killed Malcolm X.
Huey Newton came by my house in North Oakland and told me that he was putting together a new organization called the Black Panther Party and wanted me to become a part of that. So I immediately accepted the offer because I was searching to find something to do to make my life relevant.
In 1964, I became a full-time student at Merritt College. As I was getting seated at Merritt College, I ran into two guys whose families I knew, well, really three. The first was Bobby Seale. Then there was David Hilliard, who was a longshoreman at the time. Then I ran into Huey Newton. I knew the Newton family. I knew Melvin Newton. He was my age. Huey's a little younger than I am, about 4 years younger. Huey was in pre-law.
Huey and Bobby, I met them both at the old Merritt College campus. They had forums as well. Actually, on the rear side of the campus, it was literally a soapbox and full of debates and speeches and just full of excitement.
I guess it was a dawning of new ideas and things that we were later to put into practice.
Castro started the revolution along with Che Guevara, with 12 of them all together. They realized that they wouldn't be able to topple the oppressive regime in Cuba. What they were essentially was an educational body. They engaged with the army, they fought with the army, and they showed the people that the army was not bulletproof, that the police were not bulletproof, and that Batista's regime was not a regime that was impossible to topple. So the people started to feel their strength. The Black Panther Party feels very much the same way. We think that this educational process is necessary, and it's the people that will cause the revolution, and it's the people that will cause the change in the country. The Black Panther Party is simply the vanguard of the revolution, and we plan to teach the people the strategy and the necessary tools to liberate themselves.
Huey and Bobby entrenched themselves in the philosophies and writings of Mao, Marx, Guevara, Malcolm X, Du Bois, and others to help illustrate and formulate a 10-point platform. This became the catalyst to the Black Panther ethics.
When Bobby and Huey came out with their 10-point program, they ran it by me. I said, it looked good. And so I signed off on it. And then Huey said, we want you to join, Richard. I said, say what? I said, I know you two are crazy, but are you guys colorblind? I'm not black. That's when Huey came back with one of the most significant statements he's ever made that I remember. He said, I know you're not black, Richard, but I'm asking you to join because the struggle for freedom, justice, and equality transcends racial and ethnic barriers.
World revolutionaries, we studied Malcolm X, who had a great impression on us. And he talked about the right to self-defense. And he challenged us with his philosophy, saying that we should be standing up, being men, protecting our community, protecting our mothers and wives and children in our community, and we had a perfect right to do that.
Initially, it was to call the Black Panther Party for self-defense, but that was because of point number 7 of the 10-point platform program. We wanted immediate end to police brutality and murder of black folks. It could have been another point that would have been the focal point of the Black Panther Party. But it just so happened that that was the most important one at that particular time because of the increase of police brutality and murder of young black folks around the country. So, and that was why the patrols and all those things were initiated and put in place.
I was a witness to all of the malfeasance of the Oakland Police Department, and I could understand why the people in the community were so hostile about this issue, so sensitive.
Now, we did that great patrol in January. It took 2 months to get to that point. 14 people, and we got out of the car. Now, Huey was a stickler for following the law. Remember, he's in law school. We know every damn law on the guns. We know all the Fish and Game Code laws and other laws. You cannot ride in the car with a live round in the chamber of a rifle or shotgun. Did not apply to a handgun. A loaded weapon is constituted a loaded weapon when you do have a live round in the chamber. You cannot point a loaded weapon at a person because under California law it constituted assault with a deadly weapon, etc., etc. We knew that backwards, forward, sideways, and cat-a-corner. We walk up, 20 or 30 people are on the street corner. Some more accumulate. But somebody walks out of one of the little stores in this little nightlife area in 7th Street and say, it's dark. He says, what they standing out there for with them sticks in their hand? Somebody said, man, them ain't no sticks. Them guns. Guns? Get the hell out of here. Well, when he's talking like this alerts the cop, but it also causes Huey to turn around and says, no one leave. Everyone stay where you are. We researched the law. You're citizens. You have a right to stand and observe police officers just like we're a new political organization, so stand here, no one leaves. And as Huey turns around, the cop is now standing. You have no right to observe me. Huey says, no. Such a California State Supreme Court ruling states that every citizen has a right to stand and observe a police officer carrying out their duty as long as they stand a reasonable distance away. A reasonable distance in that particular ruling is constituted as 8 to 10 feet. I'm standing approximately 20 feet from you and will observe you whether you like it or not. And some sister on the sidewalk said, well, go ahead on and tell it, brother. Is that gun loaded, the cop says? Huey said, if I know it's loaded, that's good enough. Well, I have a right. Huey stepped back. You have no right whatsoever. Huey recited something else related to Supreme Court, somebody versus so-and-so, and blah, 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 blah. Therefore, this is my private property. You cannot remove my private property from me without due process of law. Step back. You cannot touch my weapon. And another brother standing on the sidewalk said, man, what kind of Negroes is these? And the cop said, well, is it loaded? He was just, clap, clap. He says, like I said, if I know it's loaded, that's good enough. And then another brother says, clap, clap. He jacks around. And the crowd on the sidewalk is saying, oh, shit. And they're jumping back. They're moving back. And the brother, the young arrestee that was with his hand on the back of the truck, he ducks down behind him. Hey, y'all, don't shoot this way, bro. And the cop is pissed. And I looked at the cop. And he's really not scared. He's just pissed because he is outnumbered. He's literally pissed because he's outnumbered when he looks and sees what he's looking at. He really hadn't taken a look to see how many of it was. And he gets his arrestee and puts him in the car and shut the door and protect his head. And then he's walking around the car and he stops. Then he walks towards one of the Panthers a bit to look, because she got these big earrings on. It's a female with this afro and this bush jacket. And I guess to make sure she's really a woman, and he gets in the car and drives off. Some little kids come around the corner. One kid has obviously went and got some other kids. Come on, see, and they come running around going, I told you, look. And little kids, they the new black police.